Okay, in the last lecture, I explained about parking studies, and mainly the last thing which we did was explanation of duration and accumulation study. So this is an example for a similar study. So you can see the parking spaces are mentioned here. Okay, some of them are mentioned with numbers, some of them with their location, some of them with their time, for how much time they are available. And then you can see the time intervals for observations. At the end of the column, you will see the accumulation. So how many numbers were recorded here? This is the accumulation. Okay, and tick also means there's a car. Okay, it's the same car, so it also should be counted. Okay, so this gives the accumulation. Now, if I want to calculate, for example, the average duration, okay, so you can see the accumulation for every interval here. Okay, but if I want to calculate the average duration, then the equation is that first of all I should have an efficiency factor. Okay, so I'm talking about basically yeah, I'm using this equation now. So you can see nx is a number of vehicles which is stayed there for x number of intervals. So x can be 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And x is the number of intervals for an x, and I is the duration of x, and nt is the total number of vehicles which we have seen. Okay, so if you want to find out the total number of vehicles, let us first of all find out nt. So nt is the total registration numbers you see here, because tick means the same vehicle, so you will not count it. So if you count only the registration numbers, then you will get 70 here. Okay, so this factor is 70. Then I need the duration of the interval as well, the I value, so 8 to 8:30, 8:30 to 9, and so on and so forth. So this is 30 minutes then. Okay, then I need then n into x for each interval. So how many vehicles were parked only for one interval, how many were parked for two intervals. So I will just explain, I already have the numbers. But for example, I'm counting how many vehicles parked for one interval, n1. Okay, so what will I count? I will count this one, but I will not count this one, because this one stayed here for 3 intervals. So you see this one, then 2 ticks. 2 ticks means this is the same car which is here. So I can count this one. Again, I cannot count this because this one has a tick. I cannot count this because this has 2 ticks. Okay, so 1 tick means it is parked for 2 intervals. 2 ticks means it's parked for 3 intervals. So I will count it in. I will count in this one in n2, and I count this one in n3. Okay, so let me get the numbers. I already have them, as I said. Okay, so these are the numbers which are counted from here. Like I said, you see how many ticks are there. 1 tick means 2 intervals, without tick means 1 interval, and so on and so forth. So now if you want to calculate the duration, then I will take, now keep in mind that for all of them the duration is 30 minutes. Each interval is 30 minutes. Okay, so 28 into 1 plus 17 into 2 plus 14 into 3 plus 9 into 4 plus 2 into 5 plus 6 into 1 means 6. Divide by, multiply by the interval duration, divide by total number of vehicles. Okay, so 28 for one interval, so 28 into 1. 17 for 2 intervals, so 17 into 2, and so on and so forth. And why 30? Because for all the intervals the duration is same. If the duration was different, then I would have taken it inside the bracket. Okay, but that will make it more complicated. Okay, so in this case the duration is 66.6 minutes. Okay, why minutes? Because I kept the duration in minutes. If you put the duration in hours, 0.5 hours, then it will be in hours. Okay, so here's how it is done. Okay, so this sheet represents one block of the area. So this whole sheet is one block or one street. Remember, this is for on-street parking. So it's one block or one street. Then you will do it for different blocks, because your area will have different blocks of on-street parking, or different streets in which on-street parking is allowed. So for each street you will repeat the same thing, and you will have these types of tables for each block or each street. Then you can combine them into this summary table. So this is for the entire area. So each row represents one block or one street. So this is block number 61, 62, and so on and so forth. What are these numbers? These are the accumulations. Okay, from where I'm getting the accumulation, you look at the last row. Okay, the summation of each column. Okay, so the last row of each, the last row of the table for each block. Okay, and then you can see the total here as well, total for the entire area. Now as you can see here, they have mentioned that we have 1500 stalls, meaning parking space in the entire area. Now if you look here, the maximum accumulation is somewhere here, okay, at 11 o'clock, which is 1410. So if you calculate it as the percent of the total, 1410 divided by 1500, okay, so this is almost 94%. Okay, so if you remember earlier, we keep an efficiency factor which is around 90% or could be less. Okay, so this number is, somewhere near that efficiency. It's actually the near the maximum limit of this efficiency factor. So what does it show? It shows that in the peak hour at 11 a.m. the parking spaces are completely filled. Virtually, from the user's perspective, they are filled, because those 6% parking spaces, there is a very high chance that they are not filled, not because they are not enough users, but because the users think that the parking areas are already filled. That's why they have left them. So they didn't go inside and look for them, or maybe there are spaces which they do not prefer, or maybe somebody parked in an inappropriate manner. So they put their car half on one side, half on the other side. So these 6% spaces may not have been, or there's a very high chance they may not have been utilized because of this reason, not because of there's no demand. Okay, so when you get the accumulation near to 1, even if it is not 1, if it is near to 1, this is an indication that the parking area is completely filled and there could be more demand here. Okay, so don't get fooled by the accumulation of 90% or 95% that we have still more space. No, from the user's perspective, there's no space. The area is filled. Okay, if it had been 70%, 80%, then we have a lot more flexibility here. We can assume that, yeah, the demand is actually what you see in the area. Okay, this is another way of summarizing the data. Okay, so this gives the number of the vehicles for each number of intervals. Okay, so how many vehicles were parked in block 61 for one interval? 28. How many for two intervals? 17. How many for three intervals? 14, and so on and so forth. How many in the other block? You can see. So in total, how many of the vehicles park for one interval? 875. How many parked for two intervals in the whole area? 490, and so on and so forth. Using this, I can calculate the duration of the average duration for the entire area. So like I did for one block, I can do the same thing for the entire area as well. Okay, so first of all, I should know what is the total number of vehicles which have been observed. Okay, so I will add these numbers. This will give me the total. Okay, so the average duration for the whole area is 73 minutes. Okay, so 875 into one interval 875 total. Then 490 for two intervals. So this one, 308 for three intervals, this one, and so on and so forth. Why 30? Because each interval, as we have seen here, is 30 minutes. Okay, and what is 2119? It is the total of all the number of vehicles. Okay, total number of vehicles. So we got 73 minutes for the whole area. Okay, if you are doing off-street parking, then it becomes easier because you don't have to take a round in the area, because off-street parking is a garage or it's a parking lot. or a parking building, something like this. So it has an entry and an exit. So you can just observe the cars from the entry and exit. And observing means that you take their license plate number, and when they are entering, when they are exiting. You can put a camera as well, it will do it for you. Or you can have sensors in the parking spaces, and this you can get the data from the sensors as well. And then you can know the exact duration of the parking vehicle. Okay, so in the on-street case, we were relying on number of intervals, how many intervals. Okay, so a vehicle parked for 20 minutes, it will be counted as one interval because our interval was 30 minutes. Okay, whatever the case is, interval can change, but still you are doing it from one interval to another interval. But in this case, you can know the exact duration that it went out in 4.5 minutes, for example, because you know at what time exactly this vehicle went in and went outside. Okay, and then you can find out the accumulation as well, how many vehicles went inside, how many vehicles went outside. Their difference is the accumulation. Okay, then we also mentioned about repressed demand. I mentioned it when the percentage accumulation was 94%. So what happens when you feel that an area is full, I cannot park here. So you will go and try to find somewhere else, trying to find the space somewhere else, in another parking lot, on the side of the road, anywhere. Okay, so this is called as a repressed demand. A person who wanted to come to this area, but the area was full, or he thought that it is full and he went somewhere else. So what is the indication that we have a repressed demand? Okay, repressed demand means that the parking area is not uh, covering its whole demand. Okay, so if this is the case, then we know that the parking supply should be increased or something should be done for the demand. So what are the how do we know about this phenomena? So for example, you see number of vehicles which are parked illegally on the median, on the shoulder, okay, something like this, uh, on the sidewalk. So if you see vehicles in a large number parked like this, is an indication we have repressed demand. Uh, Vehicles which are parked for very long duration. Okay, so in the previous case, there was no vehicle parked for more than 6 intervals, more than 3 hours. But if you have vehicles which are just there for the whole day, many number of vehicles, not one or two, like half of the parking area is full for the whole day, then it means as we have repressed demand. So because then when people feel that they will not find the parking space, they do this. They will find a space very early in the morning. They will put their car and they know that if they move their car, then they will not find the space. So they leave it there for the whole day. So this is an indication. If you have very high accumulation for a very long period, that's an indication of repressed demand. And the last one, which we already saw in the previous example, when the maximum accumulation reaches near to 100%. Okay, like I said, the remaining 3, 4, 5% is like we have the wastage. Okay, it's just the user doesn't think that there's space there. That's why we have this. But accumulation near to 100% is considered as repressed demand. What are the other parking studies we can do? Uh, we can do origin studies. Okay, so you go to the parking or you go to people and you ask them from where they are coming. Okay, so then you would know that how long they have traveled here and which area they are coming. Does this area have any public transport? Why they are coming on car? You can get these things. You can know about these things, and you can do this using the data of the vehicle registration from the traffic department. So that you go to the traffic department and tell them, okay, these vehicles entered the area, and I want to know what is their registration address, because this is their origin. The registration address is normally the origin. So this makes your life easier, but obviously this is private data which you may not get access to. Other thing which you can do is you do interview studies. Interview studies, when you go and ask the users what are the important points related to parking studies which we should incorporate. Purpose of the trip, because purpose of the trip uh, will affect where he is going, why he has come here, what will be the duration, how much he is willing to walk, and so on and so forth. So you can see then to cross check, we also ask them the duration of the parking, distance walking towards its facility from the parking area, any other characteristics like the gender, like how many people have come in a car, and why they have parked here, not on the other side, and uh, why they have come to this area, why not go to some other place. Okay, the age, any disabilities. So these factors should also be asked. So this is it about parking studies, and hopefully this course has been useful to everybody.